And hello and welcome back. Good morning, evening, whatever time it is when you're watching this. My name is Steve.
And if you find us especially charismatic today, it's because we're going to talk to you about social skills.
That is correct, of which we probably don't actually have any, but we like to talk as though we do.
Well, if we had social skills, maybe we'd have more YouTube followers.
There we go. Okay, so without further ado, we've talked about some things that have been a main part of RPGs from the beginning. Physical skills are obviously something that we've always had rules for from the early days of D&D.
And there's some crossover with the informational skills that we talked about
Mental skills,
because many of the mental skills involve information gathering, which you often do from people.
And mental skills are also something that originally we didn't have rules for, but eventually people decided, the characters can be smarter than their players. Social skills do exist in a nebulous area where a very interesting form of elitism happens. If someone said, I'm going to go chop wood, and the DM were to look at them and say, all right, go grab an axe, go show me how you do it, everyone around the table would look at them like they were crazy. But when someone says, I'm going to give a stirring speech to the people, you were expected to stand up on the table and actually give that speech and move them. That's helpful, that's great, you're never required to do that. If you have the trait on your character sheet, you can simply spend it and describe how it is you plan to influence the people. If you spend the trait, fantastic. It has the desired effect or something close to it. If you don't spend the trait, also fantastic. No matter what you would have said would result in failure.
So let's talk about some specific situations.
Absolutely.
And why you might or might not be able to spend the trait exactly the way you want. So we've used as our basis of specific examples so far trying to break into the Yggdrasil space elevator secured areas. And in the course of this, you might find yourself trying to convince a guard of something. Let's say your character is slick and charismatic, and so you've got a trait representing that you are a fast talker. And so you want to fast talk this guard into believing something.
Reasonable.
What you choose to fast talk the guard into believing will definitely make a difference here.
The closer it is to something that can be easily swept under the rug and ignored, the better it is. If you simply try to convince the guard that the guard should let you pass because you are a fully authorized person who simply forgot their ID in their lab coat, and the lab coat is inside, and come on man, can't you let me pass, I'll make it worth your while, that's way more likely to succeed with a single trait than convincing him that you're actually the owner of a space elevator and you are in big trouble, Buster.
The thing is, you have to think about this situation in terms of how many supporting ideas are you trying to get past in this guard's mind. Or you could think of it in terms of a scale of how deep shit is this guard going to be in if he believes your story versus what kind of incentives are you offering him.
A quick rule of thumb is that it should take about one trait off your character sheet for each objection you have to blow past, minus one for each incentive you're offering him. Minimum of one.
And this can work either way that you're looking at it. If you're looking at it in terms of you are trying to get someone to believe a set of information that they can't verify or that maybe goes directly against things that they already believe, then maybe you are counting the number of facts that contradict facts that the person already knows as the number of different successes that are needed. Or maybe you are counting it based on the incentives versus penalties, but you can assess different levels of success for different numbers of traits on this basis. So let's say you try to convince the guard, let me into the lab, I left something in there, and part of what I left in there was my ID. This, depending on how secured this particular lab is, might be one trait, because if the guard ended up being wrong about this, it's not going to be that bad. You're just trying to get quick access. Plus, part of that would be you're going to be checked on within a few minutes.
If you're trying to push too far, though, you are going to have a bad problem and will not go to space today. we're almost out of time for today, and so we'll actually talk a little bit more about this next time.
See you next time for more involved uses of social traits to overcome deeper objections. And thanks for falling through the cracks with us.